Hey, hello. I'm here to teach you about Blender. I'm currently using Blender 3.4. I'm going to go File, New, General. Um, yeah, when you first start up, there's a splash screen. I don't know how to get that splash screen up, but it tells you, kind of asks you like, oh, what button you want to click on, what mouse you want to use. Just click all the defaults. Um, if you've already done that, then when it pops up, say General. This is a general scene. You can also do animation stuff, but man, this is the default for sure. This is called the default cube. The default cube comes with a camera pointing at it and a light lighting it up. You have probably already noticed that I'm doing what is called orbiting around. You can see why it's called orbiting. If the default cube is our sun, we are the moon going around it. I guess that would be a planet. Awesome. So I'm middle clicking to do that. The middle click on the mouse. I'm middle click and dragging. Probably should have said that first. You'd also do that same thing by going up here into your little gizmo. I don't know what this is called really, but you could just click and drag around and it does the same thing. A nice feature of the gizmo here is that if you click on one of these letters specifically, it will give you the top-down version in this case, the front version, the side version. So watch me hit X. Boom. We just get a really flat version of this, and we could see kind of without using much perspective, where using any perspective or depth, where the light and the camera are in relation to this thing. Okay. I'm going to try and go until my battery runs out in 10 minutes, so I need to keep this a little bit short. I just middle clicked to get out of that view. Awesome. Next thing is, I haven't given a Blender lesson in a long time, so I'm not sure where to even go with this next. So I still middle click around. Let's talk about our if we are looking at this through a camera right now, how we can change our camera views. So I already told you about middle clicking and dragging. The other option is to pan. Panning is holding down the shift key, middle click and drag. And that actually changes the position of the camera, not just the orbit of the camera. Okay. And next thing, if I use my scroll wheel, I could simply scroll in and out. Oh, my grocery driver is here. Awesome. Just like everything else, you could kind of do those same things, or just like the gizmo I showed you. You could do the same thing by clicking and dragging on any of these things. So if I click and drag on this magnifying glass, it'll zoom in and out, just like the scroll wheel. If I click and drag on the hand, it moves around, like in Photoshop. So what it's not like in Illustrator or Photoshop, to pan, you use the hand tool. Nope, the hand tool is Shift, middle click and drag. And before you start questioning any of these keyboard shortcuts, that's just the way it is. Things will never be the same now that you're using Blender. Okay. I'm orbiting around, I'm zooming in and out. And every once in a while, like you'll zoom in and hey, I want to see the top of this thing, Z-bar. So I'm going to hold down Shift, middle click and drag down so we can see the top. So a lot of times your student is going to zoom in too far and then they're like, uh-oh, what do I do? I'm inside the cube. Okay, well, calm down. Zoom out. Yeah. Those are camera controls. I have like a few more minutes on this. Okay. I have 7%. I'm trying to get this number for 7%. Currently, we are in object mode. Object mode lets you do things like move the cube around. So let's stay in object mode. And when I say cube, I mean the whole cube. I'll click on the cube in object mode. The first thing you might want to do is move this. The keyboard shortcut to move is G for grab. G, and you can freely move it. If I hit Y or X, it moves along the X axis. And I click to set it. That's something you're not really seeing me do here. If I click on this again, I'm going to hit G to grab it. And I'm not doing anything with my mouse buttons. I'm just wiggling the mouse around. I would now like to constrain it along the Z axis, going up and down, Z. Up and down. Okay? And then once you want to set it in that correct position, you just click on it. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Other options besides grabbing and moving is the rotation option. So I'm going to simply hit the R button to rotate, R. And this does a free form rotation. This is not very helpful, especially in a 3D environment. You need to do at least, especially at first, just one axis at a time. So I'll start with the x-axis. You can see in my gizmo up here, the x-axis is red. And now it only rotates along the x-axis. If I want to do perfectly a certain amount of degrees, I would just type in 45 and then enter. And it has set that perfectly at 45 degrees. Another thing to point out is down here on the lower left, you have the last thing that you've done. It says rotate. I can open this up and you can change this manually. Let me drag on the number. You can see it move. Okay. Once you do something, so once I undid it, well, it undid it. Whoops. Let me redo. Shift Control Z. Okay. Notice that when I do that, if you ever click away, that thing goes away. You have to kind of take advantage of it while it's there. Besides rotating, we can scale. S to scale, and click and drag, and it gets bigger. I'm realizing I'm not going to finish this in time, and I have a few more things to say, so I'm going to plug in. And if you can imagine a bald man drowning in a sea of cables, and trying to plug this in before his computer turns off. Awesome. Okay. So that's scale, S for scale. And notice it scales the whole dang thing. We can explain this. I'm going to go into detail a little bit later about this. I'm going to start with a new cube, actually, to talk about scaling. So I'm going to simply just hit delete. I can't. Right click. Delete. To make a new cube or any other primitive object is what they're called. You go Shift A. Shift A. We want a mesh. A mesh is a 3D thing. We have a cube. We have a circle. Let's do cube again. Boom, that creates a cube. Look down here. It tells you the controls for the last thing you did. I'm okay with these sizes, but I want to point out when you click away, the second you click, that thing is gone and you cannot summon it again. To scale, let's click on the cube. I'm going to click S to scale. I'm not touching the mouse button. I'm just going to wiggle the mouse so you can see left and right. Pay attention to this double-sided arrow with a dash line. That is kind of showing you like how far you're going. If you want to keep going, what's crazy about Blender is you can just keep going and you'll see it. Oops, let me do it again. S to scale, go to the right, and like it like keeps going, like it just like doubles up, it laps itself or something. I just hit escape to get out of that. If you want to scale along certain axes, you can do that too. Hit S to scale, hit X to have it go along the red axes, the X axes. I can hit S for scale and then Z to go up and down. So that's how you scale up and down. Man, this computer's kind of slow. Awesome. I'm going to do a few things with this. I'm going to hit G to grab, then Y to scooch it over to make room for the next thing that I make. The next thing I'm going to make is going to be born here. And it's a good idea design-wise to give birth to it, design it, and then like move it over and start doing something else. You don't want to just make all your primitive cubes and then come back later and start turning this into a car. And I'll talk to you a little about that later. Just trust me. Okay, let's make something else. Shift A. Let's do the monkey head. That's a mesh and monkey. Okay, in this case, I want to look at the monkey straight on. Okay, I could do that by simply clicking on the Y axis, and it needs to be this one, negative Y, I think. Boom, there's the monkey. Again, S to scale, R to rotate. I'm going to say we're going to rotate along the red axis, X. See, it'll go forward. Hello, how are you, Mr.? So you can just imagine like this monkey's laughing right now. You could animate the values of rotation just to make this thing laugh. I'm going to hit escape. I want to talk about giving this guy elf ears. Okay, it's not Christmas, but we're going to do it anyways. That lets me talk about object versus edit mode. Everything we've done so far is in object mode. It is one big solid thing. We can only do things to this one solid thing. With a few exceptions, like we could stretch it out along one axis. Edit mode is where you can really go nuts. There's edit mode. We are currently in point mode. You can tell because there's all these little points. Look next to the word edit. There is a point mode and a line mode. If I switch to line mode, those points go away. If I switch to face mode, it's a little bit different change, and I can select a face. Let's worry about the point mode first. Well, I changed my mind. I don't know. You're smart. Let's do line mode. Middle click and drag so I can orbit around. I'm going to click on this line right there. If I zoom in, you can see which one I grabbed and hold shift, middle click and drag. So I've selected this line. I'm going to hit G to grab and then go straight up with Z. So I just hit G, then Z. I'm not touching anything on the keyboard. I'm not touching anything on the mouse besides just going up and down. Click. Look, I just gave him monkey ears. Monkey. No, he was a monkey. Now he's an elf. I should have done this both at the same time. So let me show you that. I'm going to undo. I've got that one line selected. I'll hold shift to click on this. So this is similar to Photoshop or Illustrator. I'll hit G to grab and then Z to go up and down. So it's different than Illustrator because you have to constantly be aware of where you are in a 3D environment and what axis you want to move along on. What's also kind of crazy is if I want to turn this into like bull horns, like stretch them out more, I could actually do a scale on this. And I think if I scale along the x-axis, so I hit S and then X, if you scale, it will have kind of this thing of moving. Illustrator's like this too. When you scale two things, it'll scoot it apart. So I don't know. That's kind of advanced. Let me show you what it would be like to make a city block come out of the top of his head. Again, I'm running out of ideas. This was not planned. I'm going to go to face select. And we're now going to deal with extruding, not moving. To extrude, click on a face. Take your cursor away from the face. I'm not clicking and dragging, just move it over. Just selected it. I'm now going to hit I. When I hit I and go towards the middle of this plane that I selected, it creates what's called an inset. I for inset. Click, that sets that. Now I have multiple. This has divided it, subdivided this into 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 polygons. I can now do what's called, let me show you the difference between moving and extruding. Very powerful, both of them. I'm going to first show you move. Again, that was I to inset. If I move this, I'm going to hit M. No, that's merge. Sorry. Oh, no, not M. G. Sorry. Move is grab. G for grab. And then I'm going to hit Z axis to have it go straight up. Like, watch. Well, see, watch me do a freeform. You see what it looks like. It creates like a little ziggurat. If I hit Z, it will go straight up. Okay. If I extrude that instead, E to extrude, and then move straight up with your mouse and click. That is the difference between extruding and moving a plane. So to extrude this plane, once again, I'm going to hit I, drag to the left. That creates 5 polygons. I'm going to hit E to extrude and go straight up. Just as an example, you could do it on this side too. It works exactly the same way, but it points in a different direction. I to inset. You have to go very slowly too. E to extrude. Move to the right. I'll do this. I to inset. I'm moving very slowly. Look, if I go too far, it reverses it, and you never want to flip and do that in your entire life. So, FYI. I to inset. Move slowly to the left. If you don't want to move so slowly, you could get closer to it and have finer control. I to inset. I don't have to worry about so much. And then E to extrude. And it just extrudes it along wherever that plane is facing. To remind you what it looks like to grab. Wow, that's kind of crazy. To remind you what it looks like to grab something, I'm going to hit I to inset to give me a few more polygons. And then E. No, not E. G to grab. Z to go straight up. That's moving something. I don't know. That's all I got for tonight. This is like the very, very foundational Blender stuff. I can't really show you much more, but tell you know that. So good luck. I don't need to save this. Talk about something different next time. And how do I stop this?